we've got some activities to do, but it's more up to you as to what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. Brett said I've got to let everyone know that there's no Cert 4 next week there's no lessons next week as in Monday to Friday. There's only the field day next Saturday. We will talk about Wollongong's field day a little bit later because there's no point in Griffith and Wagga and Maria listening to what we've got to talk about. So we'll talk about that later. There's just a few things that we need to go through. Just one thing as a generalisation is when you're actually taking your readings on your field day, your first reading's your back sight, your last reading's your foresight. So what happens, you have to, when you have a change station, you have to go back to that last reading and it will become the first reading from your change station. Now that's an error that students tend to make. That what that does is that provides the link. If you don't provide a link from station to station, you have to redo the whole lot. You can't go back and just do one reading. Okay, so it is really important to be mindful that you link your change stations. Okay, just another thing that we need to talk about as well, and this was pipeline excavations. Now, what it was, this is what you have to do. Now, each TAFE will be slightly different, but this is 100% what Wollongong is doing. Now, I didn't think I explained it that well the other night, so we're just going to go through it again. Basically tonight, I want anyone that has any questions to put your questions up, because it's much easier to resolve any issues before you do your field day assessment rather than try and do it after. Okay, so just with this, we've got the readings which everyone is familiar with. We know how to fill these out. You've been doing them now, so I'll just click through these. So we've just filled it in. Then we go through with our height of collimation. We get all our levels, and these levels here get transferred. Now this sheet can be a little bit challenging to do, but okay. So that's everything that you've seen there so far. You've done. Okay. Then we do our checks. We do our back sights and our foresights. We do our checks. That's one thing I would recommend everyone does on their field day. Do your checks. Make sure your checks balance, because you can't come and say, oh, look, Glenn, I'm 20 mil out. That's not much, is it? If it doesn't balance, it doesn't balance. It's got to be the same number. Okay. And there's no way that you can actually try and adjust it in your booking sheet either. Okay, so everything that we've seen there, and this is the sheet that you've got to fill out on the day, or the ones in Wollongong do. Okay, then what we do, we transfer these RLs down to the surface RLs down here. Okay, so that's all we've done there. Okay, each one of those has been transferred down. Okay, the next thing we have to do, we've got to work out our design RL. Okay, so we've got a 5 metre pattern, 5 metre spacing to map this. Okay, so what we do, we've got to get it's the design 1 RL minus the design 2 RL, and there's design 1 RL and design 2 RL. We minus those, we find what they are, and then we divide it by 7. Now, the reason we divide it by 7 is because there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, that's 0, sorry. So it's 1, that's 0, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That last one is just that's part of the table. So that's why it's divided by 7. Okay, so that gave us a figure of 128 rise for that, is the gradient rise per 5 metres. Okay, so If we go back here then, when we go 49.30, if we add on 128, we get, okay, if we started from here, it would be better. It's 48.04, which was our pit. Then we added on 128, which gave us 48.52. We added on 128, which gave us our 48.660. We added on 128, which gave us our 48.788. We could have gone this way, but we would have been deducting it. Okay, it doesn't matter which way you go about it. Then what happens, to get the depth of the excavation, we've got the surface RL here, which we used from our sheet, our booking sheet, height of collimation booking sheet. So on our first one, we have 50 and our pit level is 49.3. So that gives us a depth of excavation of 700. So when we go back through that, we've got 50.32 minus 49.172, and that gives us a depth of 1.148. And we just fill those out going through there, 50.435 minus that, 50.295 minus that. When you do it in steps, it's not that difficult, okay? So what we do then, that height there, that is 700 divided by 25. We're using the same scale, and I haven't got my calculator out, but I know that arrow, what you do with that arrow, we just go to format. I'm pretty sure it is around 2.8. Has anyone got a calculator that they can actually confirm or not confirm what that was? Okay, so we've got 700 divided by 25. Turn your calculator on, Glenn. Okay, 28. So if I go up to 28, like I said to you before, you grab the arrow. We've picked that 50. It's not a bit of architrave that has to fit 100%. If my tab was a little bit lower or a little bit higher, it's not a huge deal, okay? So you then have to do that across all these different levels, RLs, okay? So if we do, okay. So what we do then, we're going across. I'll just fill them in. So that would be our contour. That would be our section through the drainage line. And that would show the contour of the ground as well. Now, what that is, that was our 50. This is 320 above that 50 mil line, because there's our 50 and it's 50.32. So we've gone up 320. Now, what happens with that? If I grab that arrow, and if I want to have a look, and I want to make it 300, and if I want to make it 320 divided by 25, it's really small. Can you see those dots are getting really small? So what I would do, I can still grab it. I can move it over there. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're a little bit out. Okay, so even though that arrow is pretty big, I get it, I move away. And okay, just as another example, 435 divided by 25 is 17. So if I click on that format, if I go 17, 1 point, actually I did that wrong. It's 320 divided by 25 is 12.8, which is about that. But okay, that's not 50. That's actually it up there. But okay, if that was the case, okay, I'll just keep going back, but that can be adjusted. But you saw what I was doing. I'll just go back. Okay, then what happens when they're filled out, and that's actually not quite right, that diagram, but when that's filled out, you then go down to your spoil calculation. Okay, so for some reason okay, your spoil calculation, what you would do, I would copy all these, copy, paste, okay, maybe go back, and it would be that. Okay, so it'd be 700 plus 1148 plus 1391, and then you would total those up, and that equals. Then you would have, that gives you your total depth. So you would have the total depth divided by the number of depths, give you the average depth. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we would have our total depth, whatever that added up to there. And then we would have, it would be divided by 8. Okay, does that, does everyone understand that? So when we've got the average depth, we then put our average depth down here. Then the width of the trench here, if we have a look, is 900. The length of the trench is 35 meters. So we would have the average depth times the width of the trench times the length of the trench, and that gives us the number of meters of spoil. Okay. The design gradient, thanks Josh, thanks Mohammed. And the design gradient is the height divided by the length, and the height is 49.3 minus 48.404 divided by the length, which is 35, and then we times it by 100. Now, I haven't, because I flicked back to on my screen too much, I can't go back and do it, and I'm not going to do the calc for you there. But look, it is, if you do it step by step, and the thing is, in your assessment, you have all your, you have access to all your information on your computer. Okay. One thing I'll put out there now, this is one of the hardest subjects to actually copy in, because there is, it's like 1,000,000 to 1 that you will have the same readings as anyone else in the group, because everyone will set up their tripod and their optical level at a different height. Okay, no one will have exactly the same booking sheets. Okay, so when you do your survey run, none of it should be the same as anyone else's. Okay, so don't save this. Look, what I'll do, okay, there's another thing. One other thing that you have to do on your field day is I'll just show you've got to do a safe work method statement. Now what happens is, how you're going to do that is, if we click on this, I'll just click on this. This is what you'll have to do. You just fill it out, and you don't even need to fill it out. On the bottom here, you acknowledge that you have read the safe work method statement, and that's what you will be using as your guidelines. If you don't acknowledge it, you won't be doing your field day. Okay, Dylan, fellas, did you get that? Because if you don't fill out that, Josh, if you don't fill out that, if you don't tick the acknowledgement yes, you can't go to the field day, because it's not only about completing the assessments, it's actually doing it in a safe way. All right, so I'll just go back now. When I said to you about there's no quizzes, there's no anything tonight, it's more about revision and a bit of a talk on your assessment in at your particular TAFE. There is anyone that feels that they need some further information on setting out. There's a film there. I'm not going to play it because it goes for 20 minutes. Okay, so you can watch that at your own time, in your own leisure, and you can fast forward it to what you think you might require, or you may not require anything at all. All right, so that is virtually it for any of the learning content that we have for Moruya, Wagga, Griffith, or anywhere else. What I think what I am going to branch off and do is any Wollongong students. Okay, oh, okay. Jai, the dates on the swims is a bit out, okay. Let's have a look. Okay, what I'll do, I'll break off with the Wollongong students. What I'll do, I'll stop that recording. Not the share. Did the wrong one, okay. So I'll stop that recording. Sure, there'll be no recording at this point. Okay, so that